Hello and welcome into another edition of Sport Ball with Squam, Stogie, and Sculldog. I'm Sam, and with me, as always, are my good friends Seth and Kyle. Boys, how we doing?
Sam, did you not have to write down the intro that time?
No, did I not have to write down the intro? You fool!
Oh
I was
my
reading
God,
it
you
from
almost
my
fooled
phone
me.
the whole time.
Looking in
Which is
your
a little-
eyes, as I always do, lovingly, it almost looked like you were looking up a few seconds.
I was, yeah. I kind of have it memorized, but need it down in front of me for a crux. A crux?
A crutch?
Horcrux.
The crux of the issue is I need a
Sam
crux.
is a Horcrux?
You never know.
For our all five listeners, would you believe it? Me and Kyle are in the same place right now, and yet we're on Skype. Oh my god!
It's an
And yet
inception.
on Skype video with each other, and Seth is, I presume, in his house pantless, as
You're
he
correct.
is wont to do,
It
of
is an apartment, but yeah.
course. But I am in fact pantless.
Yeah,
So,
indeed.
He's lying.
Wearing me undies,
so
though.
of course, my undies.
Who's undies?
You know, if you buy me undies and Bird Box in a bundle, you actually get 20% off of both.
A Bird Box boxer bundle.
All right, so this week we wanted to do a little NFL preview podcast for the playoffs, a little playoff preview extravaganza, if you will,
I will.
even if you won't, really. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through each team and kind of map out what we think is going to happen in the playoffs and probably be wrong about all of our predictions, as we normally are.
I
Kyle
won't be.
seems confident, though.
I'm pretty confident I'm going to pick every single game right.
This is classic him, though. This is how he is before every round of the playoffs.
Just like I was very confident in our bet that we had Matt place in Vegas, and we got every single one wrong.
Yep, sure did.
How it goes.
Oh, were you confident in your bet that you made in this podcast that the Rams would go undefeated?
That was before Cooper Kupp was injured. I feel like that bet should be voided
Oh,
for another
Seth,
day.
you're an unbiased third party. Do you think it should be voided? It
I
should
would
be all
say
voided
no.
in the future.
I mean, unless you said at the time of the bet, barring injury.
Especially
I'm
Cooper Cup. All right, let's go over the first game. We have the 6-seeded Colts at the Texans, who are the 3 seed in the AFC. The Texans are 1-point favorite, and this game is on Saturday at 3:35 p.m. Despite the seedings, do we think the Colts are the better team here? Kyle, I already know your answer.
Yeah, I think everyone knows my answer. All five of our listeners.
I'm kind of with Kyle on this one,
I think I
mainly
am too.
because I had Andrew Luck on my fantasy team all year. So I grew a soft spot in my heart for him.
How many soft spots do you
And-
have?
2 or 3.
His heart is mush.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Texans, like Deshaun Watson's not really what he was at the beginning of last season before the injury, or last season.
Yes.
And they have DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, but like, I don't know. I just feel like no one else really. They have a good defense. It's just a solid team, but nothing really gets you excited. And I think I just have a lot more confidence in Luck driving my team in the playoffs than I would Deshaun Watson. I mean, I think it'll be a good game.
I mean, Luck definitely has a better. What was I going to say? Hearing myself talk is extremely difficult to do this with. He definitely has a better driving record compared to Deshaun Watson, so I think that's something we have to think about.
No DUIs.
No DUIs, never been
Luck.
pulled over.
So
I mean, sometimes you just need a
Does
little
40
luck
and
to
a
win,
60.
you know?
yeah, that was a really good one. I was wondering how far into the podcast we'd go until we had a luck joke, and it was around now o'clock. So
Luckily, we made it about 4 minutes.
So in the first meeting, I think this is going to be another close game. In the first meeting, the Texans won 37-34 in Week 4 this year in overtime in Indianapolis. And then the second meeting, the Colts won 24-21. That was just recently Week 14 at Houston. That was snapping the Texans, 9-game winning streak?
It would have been 10
The
if they
least
won that.
impressive 9-game winning streak anyone's ever seen. So I think we may see a similar result in this game, where we see a field goal or lower, And I think this is going to be a very close game. I would like to see really what the statistics are for the third time that teams meet in a season, and how that usually goes down. And they probably won't tell us anything, but it'll be nice to look at,
Yeah, unfortunately, that wasn't one of the statistics I delved into.
But
however,
in podcast research, Kyle.
Seth is saying
Yeah,
something.
that's true. That's what he excels at.
Yeah, that's true. In game, I have no clue what Seth said.
Why don't you put your headphones?
I took it out because I could hear myself.
Oh, okay.
On a delay.
Of course.
Oh, it's whatever. I'll keep it in, I guess. So, week 4, the matchup was interesting. The Colts didn't have Marlon Mack that week, but they did have their center, Ryan Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
But still, Marlon Mack is their number 1 ball runner, with Nyheim Hines being their number 1 pass catching back. Luck looked incredible that game, even though they lost. He threw for 464 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions in an overtime game. T.Y. Hilton went 6 catches for 115 yards. Ebron had 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. And here's the surprising thing. Nyheim Hines went 9 catches for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. Texans were as healthy as they've ever been, and they barely squeaked out that win. They had Will Fuller still. Kiki Kuti was healthy. Mm-hmm. Hopkins went pretty nuclear, 10 catches for 169 yards and a touchdown. And this was, I think, Kuti's first time fully active. He had 11 catches for 109 yards, and Fuller had 4 for 5 with just about 50 yards and a touchdown.
Will Fuller the 5th.
Yeah,
they just keep popping out Will Fullers.
And then the second meeting was a lot different. You had Marlon Mack back, but Ryan Kelly was out, who basically, I don't know what I was going to say there. Either way, no Kuti or Fuller for the Texans, though. And without those 2 weapons, they still had Demaryius Thomas, but they held Hopkins in check. He only had 4 catches for 36 yards. And that would have been it, but he scored a late 4th quarter touchdown with 2 minutes left in the game or something. But Hilton lit them up that week too. 9 catches on 12 targets for 199 yards. And Ebron went 4 for 8 with 65 yards and a touchdown again. So what I think is we've seen that the Colts, even undermanned and against a fully healthy Texans team, was able to put up a very strong fight and should have won the game. And now the Colts are just about as healthy as they've ever been, except for the T.Y. lingering injury that he's had, which I'll talk about in a second. And the Texans now are nowhere near as healthy as they were for either meeting. Kuti might be back, which could be big, because the Colts usually let up a lot more targets or catches underneath than they do deep passes, where Hopkins really excels. So having that secondary target in Kuti could be really beneficial for the Texans. But like I said, the T.Y. Hilton injury is pretty interesting. He hasn't, I don't think, practiced this week, or he's practiced very limited today, being Thursday.
He's been injured for half the games this season. He still goes off all the time. And
that's the most impressive thing is I don't think it even matters, because I saw this earlier. He's led the league in receiving yards week 10 through 17. He has 163 more receiving yards than the next closest player. Yeah. 50 catches, 917 receiving yards on 7 games. Next closest is Juju with 747 on 57 catches.
Smith-Schuster or otherwise?
Yeah. The law firm.
Yeah, I feel like every week he's on an injury report, and then every week he gets 10 for 169, specifically every week.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me just play a little devil's advocate here, because I think that we've just been talking about the Colts and their strengths. I think that whereas Deshaun maybe isn't to the level last year of passing efficiency and passing touchdowns, I think that was maybe a little unrealistic for him to sustain that. But I do think what he still has that's a valuable weapon is his mobility. Every time it seems like he's going to get sacked, he manages to escape and doesn't always look to run, but to pass, which I think is a big thing. And so I think that those plays are pretty crushing to a defense, right? When you think you have a quarterback wrapped up and he throws for a first down, and I've seen that happen time and time again with Deshaun. And it has to happen time and time again because his offensive line is very weak, so he's going to get pressured a lot. I think the Texans' pass rush is very dangerous. I think they can get to Luck. JJ has started to look more like himself. He finished this year with 16 sacks after a pretty weak start to the year. And I think that although the Colts defense, is improved over the beginning of the season, they really don't have anyone that can shut down DeAndre Hopkins. And, maybe you could say the Texans only have, one elite receiver and elite pass rushers, and that's basically all they have, but I think that might be enough, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win this game.
It's just, like I said, I've been a big believer in the Colts.
What did you say to me earlier today?
What?
He said, this man looked at me straight in the eyes and said the Colts are going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it later, too, when we finish up our matchups for the week. But I know you're talking about getting pressure on the quarterback in terms of the Texans. And I think that's really the big thing with Ryan Kelly is not only is he extremely beneficial for running back effectiveness, but with him in the starting lineup this year, he's allowed a 29% quarterback pressure rate and only an 8% sack rate, whereas without Ryan Kelly this year, the Colts have allowed a 31% pressure rate and a whopping 13% sack rate. So with him in the lineup, that's a 5% difference in sack rate for the Colts, and that's going to be huge for Andrew Luck.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a less than small chance that Deshaun outplays Andrew in this game, though. Although I know we all love Andrew Luck, I think Deshaun has that potential. So I don't know. I don't think it's a gimme for the Colts in any respect.
They're going to win.
I mean, yeah, I would pick them to win this game, but I wouldn't be very confident in either team.
I'm confident.
Let it be known that Kyle is confident in the Colts. Any last thoughts on this game?
No.
Zach loves when I ask that question.
Now I have to say no, even if I do have a thought. So
yeah, we'll never know if you have final thoughts. I will say one more thing, actually, to maybe back up your Colts, Kyle. I think Frank Reich might be a great coach, and I don't think Bill O'Brien is. So,
if it wasn't for Nagy most likely winning Coach of the Year, I think Frank Reich would be the winner. Like he should be runner-up. What he's done for this team is incredible.
Are you guys both picking the Colts in this game?
100%. I'm picking the Colts to go to the Super Bowl.
I might just say Texans just to be a.
I'm gonna pick the Colts, but I don't have much confidence in it. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose.
Yeah, I'm the same way. All right, let's go to the next game. Number 5 seed Seahawks in the NFC versus the number 4 seed Cowboys. The Cowboys are 2-point favorite. This game's Saturday night, 7:15 p.m. Clear plans. Same question really here. Despite the seeding, do we think the Seahawks are the better team here?
No, this one is up in the air for me.
I think so too.
This is my Colts. If I were Kyle, does that make sense? The Seahawks are my team, other than the Vikings. Much like the Colts are Kyle's team, other than the Bears. And I love my boy Russell Wilson. I also have been reading this new book, written by Michael Bennett, who no longer is on the Seahawks, but at the time that he was on the Seahawks. It's called Things That Make White People Uncomfortable. And it's been great. He has a lot of insights into the inner workings of the locker room and how players feel about the NFL. And he talks a lot about how different the Seahawks locker room is than other teams around the league. And what Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll are like. So naturally, it just makes me love them even more.
Naturally.
And so I'm definitely picking the Seahawks in this game. I think we're looking at a Seahawks-Colts Super Bowl.
Who's man's?
I don't think
I
the
feel like
Seahawks
it's
will
just
make
as outlandish to say the Seahawks will make the Super Bowl than it is to say the Colts will make the Super Bowl.
I think it's a much harder road for an NFC wildcard team to make the Super Bowl than an AFC wildcard team.
I would agree with that for sure. I would say in this game, it's really, really close, and it might come down to the quarterbacks. And this is unlike the last game where I felt that either quarterback could really outplay the other on a given day. I don't feel the same about this game, and I think that Russell Wilson has a considerable advantage over Dak, and I think that he's shown to be a great leader and very clutch in playoff and fourth quarter situations. And I trust him in the fourth quarter way more than I do anyone on the Cowboys, especially Dak and Amari Cooper, who hasn't been in the playoffs before, and we haven't seen him in this moment. Now the team around Russell isn't great. Their offensive line is poor, and defense isn't what it once was. But
their running game has really been getting it going lately, though. Chris Carson,
exactly,
the last 4 weeks has been a star.
They're one of the top running teams, if not the top running team. In the
but
NFL.
who are those teams that they've played over the last couple of weeks? It's some of the worst run defenses in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals, Chiefs, 49ers.
I mean, these teams played in week 3, so that's a long time ago. But the Seahawks won 24-13 in Seattle, and they had a good game on the ground. Chris Carson ran for 100 yards. I think that this is a tough defense in Dallas, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're still able to run on them.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Carson, he ran for 102 yards and a touchdown, but it took him 32 tries to do that.
But that's what they're going to do this game, too. I mean, they're going to run the ball that many times this game, for sure.
But the difference here is they have Dallas has Amari Cooper now, which opens up the offense a lot more than what they were able to do at the beginning.
Christian name, Amari Cooper.
So I think that's really the game changer. I think the defenses are both good. I think Dallas has a better defense, and they have the better running back. And I don't know, it's tough because I definitely think Russell Westbrook.
What the Westbrook?
Russell Wilson is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, but I think the Dallas defense is suffocating enough to somewhat shut down the offensive output. I mean, Russell really hasn't been throwing that much. I don't think
very efficiently though.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be able to be that efficient in the run game. So I don't know, man.
But they really don't need to be efficient in the run game. What they do is they run 30 times a game, and then they open up the play action for 10 plays and get 3 touchdowns out of it.
Yeah, but that's just efficiency like that isn't something that is consistent. It can't be.
But it can be more consistent if you're able to run effectively 30 times a game and wear down a defense,
But I don't think they're going to run effectively. Dallas has the 5th-ranked run defense in the NFL.
I mean,
and then you have Ezekiel Elliott who's
successfully against them already this season.
Yeah, I guess not successful, really, though. They average 3 yards a carry? That's not that successful.
They won the game, so I think it worked out for them.
Just because they won the game the ends doesn't justify the means.
They won the battle, but not the war,
I don't know. I lean towards Dallas.
Well, I think that, I don't know. I think that I'm just saying that running that many times a game, no matter how efficient it is, opens up the play action, which Russell is deadly in.
I don't know. I just think this team with Amari Cooper is much better than it was in week 3.
It's true.
I feel like having Russell Wilson, even considering that they haven't been using the passing game as much, especially down the stretch of the regular season, shows that they're committing to the run game, that they'll have a better chance of being effective in the run game than they would have otherwise. And even if they are getting stopped, if Chris Carson and the offensive line just aren't getting it done, I still have confidence that they'll be able to switch to using the passing game more heavily, and that Russell Wilson will still be good enough to win them the game. And I think
And I
he's
think
always shown that he's at his best in the playoffs when it matters most, and in the later part of the season. So,
and I think Doug Baldwin has really shown improvement over the year. He's had a lot of smaller injuries throughout the year, and he has 5 touchdowns in his last 6 games. He's really coming into form, and he could be someone they lean on in the passing game as well a little more heavily. What do you think? You think the Cowboys win this?
I think the Cowboys win. I think it's a very close game, very grinded out game, but where Amari Cooper excels is where the Seahawks are the weakest defensively. And we've seen Amari Cooper could have blow-up games very easily. What comes to mind is that game against the Redskins. I know the Redskins aren't a defense like Seattle is, but where he beat the Redskins is the same exact spots, the short middle and left side of the field against Seattle, which is where they're most susceptible, like I said. So I just think that opens up too much. Zeke has had, 2 weeks to rest now. So him coming in with fresh legs is going to be huge. They have one of the best rookie defensive players in Vander, how do you pronounce his name?
Vandersnatch or whatever.
Yeah, Vandersnatch.
Vander Esch.
The Black Mirror movie.
Yeah.
I do think it's a close game though, but
I definitely do. I struggle a lot picking this game, but
gun to my head, I say Dallas.
Yeah, gun to my head, I would say the Seahawks. I can't even make the joke about Kyle holding a gun to my head because everyone can see me right now. Oh my god. All right, let's move on to the next game. Seth, I presume you have no final thoughts. The next game is the 5th-seeded Chargers at the 4th-seeded Ravens in the AFC. The Ravens are a 2.5-point favorite. This game is on Sunday at noon. I'll ask the same question again. That's right. Do you think the Chargers, despite the seeding, are the better team here?
Hands down.
I would say this one's more obvious than the first two, right? That they are.
Yeah.
I would say that they're the more complete team, but I will say that I hate Phil Rivers and everything he stands for. It's like
having children.
Just stop having kids. He has 9 children. You don't need that many. After like the 4th one, it doesn't even matter.
He's trying to have enough kids to have an entire NFL roster. That's how much of a football guy he is.
Oh God, I hate him so much. Plus the way he talks, it's like you don't live in the wild, wild west.
I could see this being one of those games where the Ravens feel some type of way because they're the higher seed, but everyone is saying that they're the underdog. And then
what type of way are they feeling?
Grind it out. They're feeling shortchanged, salty, if you will, as the kids would say, as the youngins, the youths.
I don't think they say that. I would like to just say that. I was just looking at a picture of Philip Rivers with his mouth for his eyes. It's incredible.
It's one of the scariest pictures I've ever seen.
This is what he looks like in real life. He's a monster. Okay.
Yeah, I could see the Ravens just grinding this one out. I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel like the Chargers are the better team, but I feel like this is a sneaky Ravens underdog team.
I feel a little more confident in this game than I do in the first two. I think the Chargers are going
to me.
Well, I don't think the Colts are going to the Super Bowl like you, so that's why I think that the Chargers are the better team here. The Ravens did win in Week 16, 22-10 at LA, which some might say makes them the better team since they won when they played. That can't be right. But I think the Chargers are out for revenge here, and I think that I don't love home field advantage for the Chargers because there's like 10,000 Chargers fans, and then the rest are whatever team they're playing, because they play in a soccer stadium in LA, and all the other teams just come to watch their team. So I feel like they don't have that much of a home field advantage, So I don't really mind them on the road as much. Although a counterpoint to that is a stat that I heard today that not since 2012 has any team made it to the Super Bowl while winning a road game. So,
wow.
Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy? So home field advantage is obviously a big thing in the playoffs, but what we have here that's a little different maybe is that we have a really veteran quarterback with experience versus the youngest quarterback ever to start a playoff game, Lamar Jackson. So that's just pondering the stat I just said right now and trying to find.
The Eagles didn't play a road game last year?
No, they were like a 1 seed.
Were they?
He's shocked. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're the 1 seed. They went like 14-2 last year, didn't they? Someone back me up on this, Kyle. You're the podcast researcher. While he researches that, what I was just about to say was that you have a grizzled veteran. You have a grizzled veteran in Phil Makuta Rivers versus Lamar, 21 years old, soaking wet. And I really don't know if he's ready for this moment, especially as a passer. And as much as I hate Phil, I think he has the advantage there. The Ravens with Lamar starting are the most run-heavy team in the NFL since like 1975. So kind of one-dimensional. The Chargers have a good defense with some linebackers that are capable of linear movement to stop the run. So I think they can shut that down. And then on offense, they're far superior to the Ravens, I think. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. Eagles. Although I hope they don't win because fuck Phil Rivers.
Eagles did have 2 home games last year prior to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so the last time that teams won on the road on the way to the Super Bowl were Colin Kaepernick's 49ers versus the Ravens. They both won on the road on the way to the Super Bowl.
Checks out.
So home field advantage, obviously very, very valuable.
I think I might take the Ravens in this one.
You don't have what it takes, frankly speaking.
They said you don't have the guts. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not sure they have much of a reason to it. I just feel like everyone is just assuming the Chargers are going to win, and it seems like the Chargers have the better team all around. But I don't know if you know this, but it is the playoffs, and anything can happen. So
on any given Sunday, baby.
I just feel like it's going to be one of those sneaky like defensive struggles, and maybe the Ravens will pull it out. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe it'll be similar to the game they played in Week 16. I mean, that was a 22-10 game. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Kyle?
I don't know. This one was tough for me. I have absolutely no notes written down.
Much like Seth does for every podcast.
So I think what Lamar Jackson has been doing is really impressive. I mean, last week, Week 17, he should have had 4 rushing touchdowns, to be completely honest. However, the first one, he fumbled, and it should have been a fumble 6. They ruled that he crossed the plane of the end zone and gave them a touchdown. That was a 14-point swing, and I would have won my bet on the Browns going 500 or better.
Oh yeah, I forgot I won that. That was really a nail biter towards the end there. Yeah.
So the problem is Lamar Jackson hasn't shown any throwing really ability in the NFL yet. In college, he was pretty decent, but the NFL is a different beast, and the Chargers have a very good pass defense. So if they can contain him running the football, I think it makes the job a lot harder for Baltimore. However, their defense is kind of like the Bears, where it's just suffocating both for the pass, against the pass, and against the run. Melvin Gordon didn't look that great last week coming back from injury, which is scary. And they should, I mean, the Baltimore is probably most susceptible to the slot, where Keenan Allen should play the majority of the snaps.
My bearded brother.
However, he's just gone completely blank in some games this season.
Yeah.
So there's just so many intangibles, I feel like.
Without Tinge?
Yeah. I don't have a
he's out
hard stance on either team, but I think I'd have to go with Phillip Rivers and the Chargers just because of, his experience pretty much.
I just realized Phillip Rivers' name is like a sentence. Phillip Rivers. Like, I'm going to go Phillip the Rivers.
Why would you ever fill up a river?
Well, if it was like a man-made river, you know. Also, another good stat to point out for this game: Lamar Jackson, 9 less kids than Phil Rivers. Can't be ruled out. It cannot be ruled out as a factor.
Lamar Jackson is 6th in rushing attempts since he's become the starter.
Of anyone, not even just quarterbacks.
No, not quarterbacks. Of all players.
Yeah.
6th most rushing attempts in the NFL since what, week 11?
It's funny because we're kind of in this era of like the NFL's version of pace and space, right? What do you call it? The air raid offense.
The air raid offense.
And,
that's not what Baltimore's doing, though.
I was about to say it's funny because Baltimore's doing the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what wins out there. Lastly, I'd just like to say fuck Philip Rivers. Let's move on to the next game. The 6-seeded Eagles at the 3-seeded Bears, baby.
Bear down.
Chicago Bears. I don't know the rest of the words, do you? Oh, nice. Who beat the Minnesota Vikings in the final week of the season? We should mention that, huh?
Someone was at the game.
Who was it, do you think? I'm sorry. That must have been tough for you.
It was tough for me. And it was because the Vikings lost. And I was cheering for the Vikings. I don't know if you knew.
Well, our longtime listeners know that he's a large Vikings fan.
So naturally, out of pure revenge, I'll be picking the Eagles for this game.
I think we all knew that would happen.
So,
I think that the Bears are the better team, but they certainly. This is the largest line of the weekend. The Bears are favored by 6, and I'm just a little nervous because the Eagles are red hot, and Nick Foles has God on his side.
Playoff Nick Foles.
Yeah.
God on his side.
Big Dick Nick.
He has a little God on his shoulder. So I don't know. Can Foles repeat, the magic that he had in the playoffs last year? Certainly he didn't play a defense as elite as the Bears in the playoffs, but I am a little nervous. There's something about him, Is it that he's a good quarterback? Maybe.
Could be.
Is he just secretly better than Carson Wentz?
I will say the Vikings are really not a good team this year, at least in the second half of this year. Kirk Cousins has been a massive disappointment, and we still had a chance to beat the Bears last week. So they didn't seem invincible to me.
Mm-hmm.
And their offense was really sputtering at times. Like there were times when the only reason that they would get a first down is because we would have a penalty that wasn't even like consequential to the play. It would just be like some holding on a cornerback when they did a running play or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a roughing the passer penalty that was just the defensive lineman's momentum carrying him into the quarterback long after he'd released the pass,
Oh, I saw that.
So,
I thought that was roughing the passer, honestly. And I think most things aren't roughing the passer.
I think it probably was, like most refs would call it, but I just think it's an unfortunate play because I think he was genuinely like trying to stop himself. But
I feel that way about a lot of roughing the passer calls. Like it's by the letter of the law, but I wish it wasn't,
Right. So I think if the Vikings hadn't hurt themselves so much in that game, like it would have been very close and they could have won. So I feel like it's not outlandish to think that the Eagles could beat this team as well. Obviously, home field advantage seems to be a big difference maker for the Bears, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's very true. Kyle, I know that the Bears are playoff bound. Playoff bound? They're already in the playoffs.
I think they are playoff bound. I'll say
the Bears are Super Bowl bound. So give us your take on why they're going to win this game.
I mean, we've kind of talked about it. I've talked about it before. This defense is just absolutely suffocating. They're the number 1 defense against the pass and number 2 against the rush for the year. The Eagles are somewhat hot right now, but they're also coming to Chicago.
That is
where
we have the shittiest field in the league.
Yeah. Why they don't hire the sod father to take care of their grass, I have no clue. For those listeners that don't know, the sod father is the name of the White Sox field manager.
Would you
Whatever.
call us the Podfathers?
No, there is already a podcaster that calls himself the Podfather that talks about football. He sucks.
So we could be.
Sounds like us.
Yeah, so Trubisky has performed much better at home this year than he has on the road. They've been getting Jordan Howard involved a lot more recently, which I don't know if it's going to work out too well against the Eagles. Their Eagles have been pretty good against the run, but they've been a lot more susceptible to pass-catching backs out of the backfield. They rank 24th in that category.
Luckily, we have one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a big Tariq Cohen spot. And usually what we've seen this year, when Tariq Cohen has a big game, Trubisky has a big game, because what Tariq Cohen does out of the backfield with catching balls opens up the running lanes for Trubisky at the same time. So when plays break down, Trubisky has seemed a lot more comfortable running in games where, Cohen is right there for a dump-off pass if something does go wrong. Cohen has 52 receptions this year for 524 yards and 4 touchdowns with Trubisky in the backfield. And like I said, Philly is the 24th ranked pass defense against running backs out of the backfield. So that just bodes well there. Trey Burton has been much better with Trubisky under center this year than any other quarterback. And the Eagles have been very susceptible defensively to those parts of the field where Trubisky usually targets Trey. And then we also have 3 healthy wide receivers, Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, and Anthony Miller, who have all proven that when called upon, they can answer.
Anthony's a little banged up, though. Is he going to be fine for this game?
Yeah.
He got injured in that last game.
I know. Nagy said he was perfectly fine.
Okay, cool.
It was just a small injury, and they kept him out just to make sure that he would be fine.
I will say that I'm confident in a lot of parts of our team, but I am pretty scared of Mitch in the playoffs. We haven't seen it yet, and I know that he's improved greatly over the season, maybe despite a little setback after his shoulder injury, but this is a big moment for him, and I want him to step up, and I'm not the most confident that he will not turn the ball over, but I guess we'll just have to see.
Seth already talked about stuff, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to, I guess, be concerned about as a Bears fan, but I think the last couple weeks, besides that first game back from the injury he had, he's looked extremely better and a lot more comfortable. He's been a lot more efficient and effective. And I think coming into this week that's a big thing for him, I guess, considering, like I said, the pass defense of the Eagles is not like it was last year. They can get passed on very easily. And Mitch has been focusing a lot more on the short, 0 yards or 15-yard throws than he has the deep throws. And those are just usually higher percentage passes, which has opened up the deep throws, though, like we saw with who was that, Taylor Gabriel last week. He had that beautiful pass.
That was such a good pass.
Like, 40-some yards?
When he made that pass, I was like, wait, he can, pass that well? That's the best pass I've ever seen him throw.
So I think that gives us a lot of confidence going forward. And I think Matt Nagy, he solidified himself as a top-tier coach in this league in 1 year. I don't know. Yeah. There's just too many overwhelming arguments for the Bears, at least in my opinion, to say that the Eagles are going to win. I also just think the Bears are going to be in the Super Bowl. So,
yeah, I think Mitch is kind of like a young child. He'll do some things sometimes where you're like, what are you doing? Why the fuck would you do that? And then he does something sometimes where you're like, wow, that was really smart. I'm surprised that you're able to do that. And it's going to be a thrill to watch in the playoffs. Let me tell you, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat for this whole game. So it certainly won't be boring. But, yeah, I would think that although the Eagles are hot, the Bears have too many advantages in too many areas that I think they should win this game.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You pulled out the bracket.
I was just gonna,
Reasoning.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say another good thing for the Bears is when they beat the Eagles this weekend, they get the Rams the week after, which
I'd
they've
rather have them
proven
the Saints. Yeah.
exactly. Hold off the Saints for as long as possible, and just pray that either the Seahawks or the Cowboys pull out a miracle. I mean, we saw the Cowboys beat the Saints earlier, not even too long ago.
God, it's so hard to beat the Saints in the Dome, though.
I know, but
there's no place like Dome, I always say. Dome is where the heart is. That's 2 puns in a row, folks. You don't get that everywhere. Yeah, well, I would say, I wonder what the statistics are. This is the second time I've asked this, isn't it? If you play a team in the regular season and beat them, I wonder how often you beat them again, you know?
like
You should have looked this up 30 minutes ago.
Well, the
He's
last
on it.
time it was about the third time meeting a team.
All right, do both, would you? While I was doing that, let's just kind of transition to the rest of the playoffs in general. And General, as they say. So, which team that has a bye right now is most likely to lose, do you guys think? Which team is the most vulnerable?
New England,
It's got to be New England, right?
in my opinion.
I just don't see it. I don't see them losing.
Do you see them winning?
One of those things. I do see them winning. I feel like it's one of those things where I'd rather be like 1 year too late on like predicting the end of an era or the decline of the Belichick Brady era, and I'm feeling like I need to see it to believe it that they're just going to lose at least in their first game of the playoffs.
I can understand that. I think, well, they're going to lose to the Colts, obviously, Kyle, right?
100%.
I could see them making the AFC Championship game and losing to whoever they may face in that, but I would have a hard time seeing them losing the first round of the playoffs. I will say that I have more concerns about them than I ever have because they're playing a dead corpse at tight end, and really their only receiver is Julian Edelman, and he's, good, not great, I would say probably, and not that much of a deep threat.
He's not a deep threat.
And I don't know if I trust Sony Michel in this spot. And their pass defense has been okay. On the run defense side of it, their linebackers can't tackle anyone. They're not fast. They're not athletic. Kyle Van Noy, he looks like he doesn't even play football. I don't know. He's not very fast at all. He looks kind of like Dirk Nowitzki this year, right? So I definitely have more concerns than I have in the past, but I think that whoever comes out of that Texans-Colts game, is that the one they play?
Mm-hmm.
No. But if the Colts win, what seed are the Colts? A 6th seed? The Chiefs would get to play them because they're the lower seed.
Oh, shit, you're right.
So if the Colts win, they'll play the Chiefs. And then if the Texans win, the Patriots
Why do they have
will play
this set
them.
up like this?
I don't know. That's not how the bracket should be. I would say if they played the Texans, I'm not worried about the Texans. And if they play who else would they play? The Ravens? I'm not worried about the Ravens. Who am I worried about, really?
The Colts.
Because they're going to the Super Bowl. Do you still stand by that now that you know that they play the Chiefs in the second round?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. So you agree with the Patriots, Kyle?
Agree with them being the most susceptible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to say the Rams.
I can see that.
Which is
The
strange
Rams have looked
because
too good
if
on
you asked
defense
me
recently.
6 weeks ago, I would have said that they would be the favorite to win a Super Bowl. But
yeah, to maybe even
just
go undefeated. Am I right, Kyle?
They had Cooper
they just
Kupp
haven't really looked so good, and my little Cooper Kupp is injured.
Yeah.
So, really, what do they have other than the best running back in the league and some of the best wide receivers and a good quarterback and a solid defense?
Right, but you don't need any of those things in the playoffs.
No. All you need is my little Cooper Kupp, and they don't have it. So,
yeah, I think that's a solid answer. I would agree with that. I think that the Saints are much less beatable than the Rams are right now. Which team that's playing this week, who doesn't have a bye, is the most dangerous, do we think? Kyle, let me guess your answer.
This is a tough one. It's the Colts or the Bears.
Oh, that's very true.
They're going to both be in the playoffs. It's going to be...
In the playoffs?
they're going to both be in the playoffs?
Would you believe it? They're going to both be in the Super Bowl.
I think the Bears are the most dangerous. Is that a homer pick? Maybe. I bet Seth's going to say the Seahawks. What do you guys think?
I mean, he projected them to both make the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
What is a Seahawk? Is that like an osprey?
A hawk by a sea.
Okay. So let's just go ahead and predict the AFC NFC Championship games in the Super Bowl, should we?
Yeah.
I would say, gun to my head, which one is right now? In the NFC Championship game, I would take the Bears and the Saints. And in the AFC Champ. Come again?
I would like some education. So
you cannot have any. Thank you for asking.
If the Seahawks win, who do they play?
They'll play.
Win, excuse me.
Well, it depends who wins the other game, because the Saints will play the lowest seed left, and the Rams will play the highest seed left. So if we say the Bears are going to win, then the Seahawks will play the Saints.
Okay. Well, I think the Seahawks and the Eagles are going to win, which would mean the Seahawks play the Rams.
Correct.
Which I think they will win again. And then it'll be Seahawks, Saints in the NFC Championship. So
and obviously you pick the Seahawks.
Nah, I picked the Saints. But I only say that now when I'm semi-rational. By the time I've watched the Seahawks win 2 games, I'll obviously pick them. I mean,
he'll move to Seattle, drop his life.
Finally propose to Russell Wilson after years of lovemaking.
I would say that I would also pick the Saints coming out of the NFC. I think it's going to be tough for them to lose at home. And as we know, home field advantage is everything in the playoffs. So Kyle, I can only imagine who you're going to pick in the championship game. Do you have the Saints in there as well with the Bears?
Yeah, Saints, Bears. But bear down, baby.
Bear down, Chicago Bears, I would say. In the AFC, I'm going to be boring and take the first 2 seeds, the Chiefs and the Patriots. But I think that the Patriots go down, and I think we see a Chiefs-Saints Super Bowl. Did I just pick the 2 number 1 seeds? Yeah. So what? What does that make me?
So what? I think I could see that as well. I would probably pick the Chiefs, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was the Patriots again.
I think the AFC is much more wide open than the NFC. I can see any number of teams making it through the Patriots and Chiefs, but I don't feel the same way.
Certainly not the Colts.
Well,
there's one team I know won't make it through any team.
Hear me out here. AFC Championship game. Things have vastly changed in my mind from our last prediction from whatever NFL podcast that was.
Oh yeah, that's old news. We don't want to go back.
AFC Championship is going to be the Colts and the Chargers.
Go Chargers, go.
Colts come out of that victorious, and we see the Bears and the Colts play in Hotlanta, baby.
Peace up,
all the marbles.
A-Town down.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
I think it was supposed to go up. I think it was supposed to go up there instead of down.
I'm not Ben.
All right. Any final thoughts on the NFL playoffs, guys? I only asked that to make Seth angrier than he's ever been.
Who do you think wins the Super Bowl?
I don't care.
You have that in the notes to talk about.
Just kidding. I would say, gun to my head. Thank you. I would say that was a video joke for our video. Our audio friends won't be able to hear that.
They'll hear it. They won't see it.
That's right.
They can hear it.
It's better for podcast listeners to be seen, not heard, I always say.
But you can find us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I don't know.
Search Squirtball Pod, and I'm sure you'll find what you need. It won't be our podcast, but it'll be
find
what
something you need.
I'll take the Saints. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll take the Bears. I've been pounding that drum for weeks. That's the one thing that hasn't changed.
It's very true.
That's true. I will take.
I mean, if the Seahawks make the NFC Championship game, you definitely have to choose them to make the Super Bowl, and at that point, you have to choose them to win. So,
yeah,
my hands are tied.
You're absolutely right. I'll take the
His hands are tied up by Russell Wilson as they make love.
Oh,
put the kids to bed already. So are you taking the Seahawks?
Yeah, I'll take the Seahawks.
All right, cool.
Glad I picked for them.
Do you think they're gonna throw another interception on the 1 yard line though?
Maybe they'll hand it off to Marshawn Lynch this year.
Isn't he on IR right now?
He also isn't on the Seahawks, so
Of course.
He's on the Raiders.
I know, but
The Raiders.
All right. I think this has been a successful podcast. Seth, any thoughts?
No.
Good.
none whatsoever.
All right, boys.
Bear down, baby.
On the third day of Rose.